Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If becoming a mangaka in One Piece world. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 851, Glitches in the Game World. The players began to leave the game world one after the other. In Syrup Village, the final boss there, Captain Kuro, caused a massacre due to Shiki's terrible mistake. Most of the players were killed after both Shiki and Mihawk were defeated. Doflamingo, Rosinante, Enel, Isho, Belmere, Gloriosa, Bullet, Shaki, Redfield, and World all perished at the hands of Kuro. He was fully prepared to eliminate them to protect his grand plan, which was nearing its final stage, the acquisition of all the assets and wealth that Kaya inherited from her parents. Kuro had not overlooked such variables in his plan. As a result, Beginner Village number 3 was regarded by most players as the hardest starting point in the game. Rob smiled as he observed the frustrated expressions on Doflamingo and the others' faces. How can we defeat Kuro? Do we really have to rely on Luffy to overcome this obstacle? Rosinante exclaimed angrily, unwilling to leave the game so early. It's all because of that lunatic Shiki. He dragged us all to the grave with him. Why on earth was he screaming in the middle of the night? Enel was equally furious, hating how Shiki had led them to their demise. Thankfully, he won't be playing the game again, said Belmere cheerfully. She, too, despised how her character had been sliced to pieces by Kuro. At the start, our level doesn't even qualify us as cannon fodder. Why is this game so difficult? Will it get easier when we level up? Isho asked as he glanced at Rob, who had been smiling at them the entire time. Mihawk, too, looked at Rob curiously. He was deeply frustrated. Despite his character's weakness in the game, Mihawk's inherent skill allowed him to stand his ground against high-level foes like Kuro. However, it wasn't enough to overcome Kuro's sheer brute force. After all, Kuro came prepared to slaughter them all. Mihawk was exceptionally skilled at wielding a scythe like a sword within the game, but even that wasn't sufficient against raw power. Kuro had come ready to annihilate them all. Naturally, since leveling up was prohibited in the closed beta, you simply can't fight pirates above level 10. Unfortunately for all of you, you started the game near one of those pirates. Rob explained candidly. After all, the game system had scattered players randomly, and even he had no hand in that process. Rob knew that Beginner Villages number 3 and number 4 were among the toughest maps to start from at level 0. Players who began there needed to proceed with extreme caution, completing numerous quests to gain experience quickly and surpass level 10 before even considering taking on the final boss or leaving the island ahead of Luffy and his crew's arrival. Players would gradually learn this harsh reality through repeated losses and accumulated experience. Of course, Rob didn't want to ruin the fun of the game for them. In this game world, even the pirate emperors had to adapt to the mentality of the weak at the beginning. That was the essence of the game. Fufu, if I could level up, I'd flay that arrogant Kuro alive, said Doflamingo, sarcastically. He was furious, his pride wounded after watching, powerless, as Kuro decapitated him. The sensation had felt incredibly real. It was as if he had genuinely experienced death in this game. Fortunately, Rob had adjusted their pain sensitivity so they wouldn't fully endure what the beast pirates initially felt. Now then, it's time to get serious. Tell me everything you discovered in the game world. Was there anything strange in Syrup Village? Rob asked calmly. There's something off about Kaya. When she first spoke to us, her facial features disappeared, no eyes, no mouth, no nose. I thought I was seeing things, but it turns out everyone else, even that lunatic Shiki, saw the same thing. Belmere clung to Rob's arm as she shared the first peculiar observation from the game world. That's true, dear. It was strange, definitely a game glitch. Gloriosa added, hugging his other arm and confirming Belmere's statement. It seems there are quite a few of these minor glitches. Hearing this, Rob felt a headache coming on. He still didn't fully understand how these glitches were impacting the game. After all, if he didn't fix them in time, the story would continue to progress with the existing errors. This could eventually spiral out of control and affect the entire game world. If things got worse, the game could even crash, destroying the world entirely. In that case, everything within the game world, including the players' souls, would return to nothingness. Is that the only thing you noticed? Rob asked again. There was something strange about Kuro. He was too fast. When he cut off my head, I didn't even see when he moved. It's impossible for a level 13 NPC to be that fast. That's Admiral level speed at least. Mihawk said, still puzzled by the incident. Recalling how Kuro moved in the anime, Mihawk could easily follow his movements. But in the game world, it felt like fighting a ghost. Kuro was so fast that he appeared to move at the speed of light, which was impossible. That might indeed be a glitch. I'll look into it. Kuro shouldn't be so fast that his movements are invisible to the human eye. Rob said, nodding in understanding. He knew that such common glitches could occur in the game, which was the primary reason he launched a closed beta and invited numerous allies, even enemies, to test it out. Huff, huff, huff. My God, these fishmen are demons. Buggy panted heavily, recalling how one of the fishmen had ripped his head off in the game. It had been gruesome and disgusting. Buggy could still feel the fishman's sharp teeth sinking into his neck. This game is not suitable for kids. Arlong is terrifying. Shanks said, wiping the sweat from his brow. They didn't even give us time to defend ourselves, they crushed us with ease. Roger added, scratching the back of his head with a regretful expression. He hadn't expected the fishmen to be this ruthless. When the fishmen came to collect taxes, Roger and his crew refused to give anything. Of course, they had nothing to offer in the first place. That's why the fishmen returned in overwhelming numbers, led by Arlong himself. The moment Arlong and his men appeared, a mission announcement popped up in the system. They had to defeat Arlong and save the Konomi Islands from his grasp. The rewards were plentiful and highly tempting. However, given their starting level of 0, they were easily overwhelmed and wiped out. Just like the players in Syrup Village, those in Kokoyashi Village faced the same fate. So, did you notice any glitches in Kokoyashi Village? At that moment, they heard footsteps as Rob entered the black room where Roger and his crew were still gathered. After all, they had yet to leave their capsules. Roger and the others weren't surprised to see Rob there. He had told them beforehand that he would personally meet them upon their exit from the game world. Well, apart from Arlong's exaggerated size, we didn't notice anything else, Roger said. Arlong's exaggerated size? How big was he? Rob asked curiously, unaware of such details since he hadn't yet entered the game world himself. That's why he needed so many people to explore it on his behalf. As far as I know, Arlong shouldn't be taller than 3 meters. But in the game, he was 8 meters tall. He looked like a small giant, and we were like ants in comparison. When he picked us up, it was ridiculously easy. Even if we leveled up to 19, the same as him, how could we possibly defeat him? Roger said in frustration. He had really wanted to crush that fishman, but in the game world, he had no means to fight back and was instead crushed himself. 8 meters? That's definitely unnatural. Alright, I'll take care of it. Rob replied, leaving for the next location. Rob appeared in Sorbet Kingdom, where he stood inside the art store, welcoming members of the Revolutionary Army as they exited the game world one by one. Did you all enjoy the game? Rob asked with a smile, looking at Dragon. It was truly amazing. I'll be visiting the Baratai restaurant in real life a lot because of this game. Dragon said, smiling. Since Rob was here, it's time to fulfill their part of the deal. I'm glad to hear that. So, what did you discover in the game? Rob asked the critical question. Tell me, Rob. Can a person walk without feet? Dragon asked with a calm expression. Of course not, Rob replied. Well, Zeph does it. We don't see any feet beneath him, but he walks as smoothly as if he has them. Isn't that a glitch? Dragon stated, causing Rob's expression to stiffen. Rob felt a massive headache. Could his first game world really have this many errors? This is frustrating. Rob sighed as he pondered how to fix all of this before the game's official release a month from now. Chapter 852, I Love Being Human. Rob stood in the sky, gazing at the world below. Before his eyes, nothing was hidden, whether it was the sea kings in the ocean depths or the strange beasts of this world. Almost everything was revealed. The world beneath him was in silent stillness, as if time itself had stopped in that moment. This was the game world. One Piece, created using the Level 20 feature of the artistic publishing system, Virtual World, using the One Piece manga and anime as a template. By sacrificing the art store as a foundation and at the hefty cost of countless art coins, Rob had managed to create this world, which he regarded as a game world. In this world, Rob had complete control over time, space, and elements because he was its creator. Minor errors appeared in the world since Rob wasn't particularly skilled at this. After all, this was his first time using the Virtual World feature to create a game world and bring it into existence. By considering the newly created Virtual World as a game world, Rob could make the most of it. It's time, Rob muttered as he looked at the first place he needed to fix errors. Under his watchful eye, Syrup Village appeared gray and devoid of any movement. It only took a glance at the source of the flaw to locate and fix it. In the same way, Rob began fixing all detected errors one by one, moving from place to place. I can feel it. This world grows stronger and stronger as I fix these issues, Rob smiled as he repaired the last discovered error. Zeph's body was restored as it was except for the missing leg, which had been replaced with a wooden prosthetic to help him walk. I remember the main reason Zeph lost his leg was that he ate it due to hunger. That's what happened in the manga, but the anime depicted it differently. I wonder how he lost it in this game version. Rob didn't dwell on such minor details as he moved on after resolving the issue there. I'm done. I don't feel the presence of any more issues. Great, I've fully utilized the closed beta. Without it, it would have taken me a long time to explore all this on my own. Now that the errors here have been dealt with, the remaining ones in the Grand Line and other parts of the world will fix themselves, Rob thought. He no longer felt worried. All he needed to do now was to continue drawing the manga so this world would shape itself toward perfection, automatically fixing the remaining issues along the way. Do I need to diversify the quests and add more to allow players to level up quickly and handle early risks? Rob had been pondering this a lot recently. The performance of elite characters in the closed beta was truly disappointing. Even the likes of Roger and Whitebeard couldn't do much against their opponents. They were utterly defeated without any means of resistance. For this reason, Rob believed that when the game officially began, players would need to find quests easily and quickly to level up and gain the capital to progress in the game. Anyway, they'll gain a lot of insight after a series of crushing defeats. After thinking for a while, Rob decided that there were already enough quests, so he didn't bother adding more. There are even those exposed devil fruits. If players acquire them, they'll dominate everything. After all these players already knew about the story and future events at least up until the 2-year time skip. Their journey in the game world would be smooth. That's why Rob had to think about increasing the difficulty instead. 1 month later. In the streets of O'Hara, a festive atmosphere dominated. Men, women, and children enjoyed their time freely moving about. Shopping centers, stores, and taverns were packed with people. Have you heard? Everyone is talking about this game world. Yes, I've heard. Can you believe it? We'll be able to enter the manga world and meet our favorite characters face to face. That's right. It's so surreal, I can hardly believe it, man. What's so strange about it? Ever since Mr. Rob appeared here in O'Hara, he's been achieving one miracle after another. I bet this game world won't even be the last shocking thing he does. At that moment, a third person joined the conversation between the two men. Then a fourth added, man, it's just that we'll be re-experiencing the manga inside the game. Considering our low starting levels, our impact on events will naturally be minimal. The most important thing is that I'll finally get to see Nami-san in person. Oh my god, I can't believe it. Will I be able to join the crew too? Impossible. What makes you so special that Luffy would invite you to his crew, huh? Humph. I'll create a strong pirate crew to rival Luffy. I'll become a supernova in the game world. Ha ha ha. Don't make me laugh. Keep dreaming. You'll never surpass me, no matter what you do. Excitement was at its peak even before the game's official launch. Many people were already planning how they would play the game. Some even began challenging each other. Teenagers with fiery spirits who previously dreamed of going out to sea to imitate Luffy and become free pirates abandoned that idea entirely, choosing instead to create pirate crews in the game world. This way, their lives wouldn't be in danger, nor would they get wanted posters in real life. In the game world, they could truly do as they pleased without worrying about the consequences. Of course, under Rob's influence and the missions he provided, he ensured that all those with twisted or evil natures would be shaped properly. Nothing in this game would fall out of his control. He already knew what he was doing and the outcomes of his actions. Pirates would eventually disappear from this world. Afterward, even the Marines would lose their purpose for existing. Then, the world government itself would gradually fade away. In the end, this entire world would fall into his grasp without spilling a single drop of blood. This had always been Rob's ultimate plan, which was now reaching its final stages. Darling. Tomorrow is the big day. How do you feel? On the bed, Alvia lay in Rob's arms, enjoying his warm embrace and resting her head on his chest. I feel anticipation. So many people have no idea what the game world is really like or how closely it resembles reality. Only when they enter will they realize, Rob replied with a smile. Ha ha. I'm also excited to see how the residents of Ohara and the rest of the world will react. Shock, fear, confusion, amazement, and joy, they'll experience all of these emotions, Alvia said, laughing. Will you allow children to play too? And what will the participation fee be? Of course not. Children under 16 won't be allowed to participate. As for the participation fee, the game will be completely free. The game world will be a refuge for many people who've lost hope in life. Perhaps many will find the game world better than the real world, as they'll gain new bodies and backgrounds based on their desires. They'll also help me develop it further. That's why I won't charge any fees, at least not at the start. That's wonderful, darling. This way, many will start revering you as a god after tomorrow's event. What will you do after that? Alvia asked curiously, wanting to understand her lover's thoughts on the matter. Revering me as a god? I don't care about others' beliefs. Besides, I'm not a god. I'm just a human, albeit a slightly extraordinary one. At my core, I'll always remain human, no matter how godlike my achievements may seem. Do you know why? Why? Because I love being human, Rob answered with a meaningful smile. Whether people considered him a human, a god, or even a demon, it wouldn't change who he was. He would always remain true to himself, his loved ones, and his desires. To live an eternal life free of worries, he would do whatever it took. If he eventually realized that such a life was a curse, he would still have the means to let go and embrace eternal death instead. Because he was human. I love being your first wife, Alvia said before closing her eyes and falling asleep with a satisfied smile on her face. Chapter 853, The Story Mode and the Online Mode. In the morning, the massive billboard above the Ohara art store was adorned with the logo of the virtual world game One Piece, the open world game. Most people had trouble sleeping properly before the anticipated event. They had been eagerly waiting for this day, especially since some lucky players had tried the closed version of the game and were eager to boast about it on the global forum. Most of these people were pirates from the Beast Pirates, and even some hunters bragged about it. More importantly, Rob did not prevent the leaking of such news, in fact, he allowed it to spread. However, he did not bother with any advertisements for the game because the game itself would be the greatest advertisement when people tried it later. As a result, many people were extremely curious, but since they already knew everything about One Piece, they thought it was just an entertainment game related to One Piece. Most people couldn't believe the game would be as realistic as some claimed. Hello, dear residents of the world. Today, I want to announce my greatest achievement up to this moment. Rob was wearing a stylish black suit, his usual smile making him appear handsome and refined to the utmost. He sat at his desk, looking like a king addressing his people. At that moment, his face was reflected on countless screens through the live stream feature of the art store, and the stream was also transmitted via Den Den Mushi to many places without an art store presence, such as Marineford, for example. When Rob began speaking, the world fell silent. Calm spread across the islands and kingdoms. There was silence even in Marigoa, where people opposing Rob lived, including Imo-sama, the Five Elders, the Holy Knights, the Celestial Dragons, and the Cypher Pole agents loyal to the world government. The man speaking now was no ordinary person, he was the enemy that must exist for the Celestial Dragons. A dilemma with no solution, that's what Rob represented. I know the past 5 months have been tough without the One Piece manga. Even though other anime shows and comics have continued, none could fill the void left by One Piece for you. Every word Rob spoke resonated with the listeners, who agreed with everything he said. After all, there was the Demon Slayer anime, Attack on Titan, Naruto, and even One Piece anime that followed the manga. All these exciting animes aired weekly, along with the Tensura manga and Solo Leveling, which released new volumes monthly. But despite all these great and varied shows, the art store was primarily based on the One Piece manga. When the manga took a long break, many people felt boredom and sadness. They could wait for a month, but a full year was too long. This was the second time the One Piece manga had taken a full year off. So far, only 5 months had passed. What was the respected author trying to tell them? Was he thinking of reducing the break to just half a year? That would be very welcome. But when Rob told them that he wanted to announce his greatest achievement, some felt disappointed, thinking that reducing the break was just a dream. But by focusing on his words about his greatest achievement, curiosity took over. Who was Rob? He was a man with incredible achievements so far. He had created many invincible art stores, he had drawn One Piece and Bleach manga, created Hunter x Hunter anime, and many other great shows. He had moved the kingdom of Alabasta to the sky and turned it into a sky island. He created the Hunter Guild, changed the world system, and established Skyport, which moved instantly between world regions. He also facilitated global transportation through the sea train rail system and his leading maritime company. He had helped eliminate the black market, ensuring all buying and selling was documented and legal through the global forum, allowing people to communicate without needing Den Den Mushi anymore. He had also created treasure rooms that allowed many to gain secure wealth. All of these were Rob's surface-level achievements. There was still so much that had not been revealed. Now Rob was saying he would reveal his greatest achievement. Could there still be a greater achievement he had not yet accomplished? Even the Five Elders took a deep breath at this moment when they heard Rob speak. Is the game's world his greatest achievement? Saint Saturn was astonished when he heard that. Unbelievable. What big secret does this world of games hold to be considered his greatest achievement? Saint Mars wondered, very curious. I'm shocked, Saint Nashiro simply expressed his shock and said nothing more. Oh. Imu's eyes also glinted upon hearing that, and she felt a great curiosity about this greatest achievement. Rob continued speaking, unconcerned with the thoughts of his enemies. Today, I am announcing the official opening of the game's world. Anyone who wishes to participate only needs to register their name and age in the Black Room. Each Black Room can hold only 1,000 people, and each art store contains one Black Room. Therefore, everyone can play for only 1 hour a day to give others a chance to play. But don't worry, 1 hour in the game world equals 1 year. This time disparity will make the game incredibly comfortable. In the closed version, 1 hour equaled 10 years, but after fixing the game's issues, time was adjusted to 1 year per hour. The more people listened, the more shocked they became. They couldn't understand how 1 hour could equal a full year inside the game. Let it be known that the game world will be completely free to play. The game can only be played through the art store. No matter how perfect your character is in the game, don't forget your real self. Instead, try to develop yourself to resemble your character in the game. Remember, you are just a player in the game world. Don't lose yourself. This was just the beginning, and Rob needed to tell people these things now. After all, the hype about the game's world would last for many years. Because of the game world, One Piece manga would become even more popular, and more people would read it over and over to understand the game world better. 6 months remain until the return of One Piece manga with the events after the 2-year adventure. Since it's a long wait, we won't let boredom take over again. The game's world will open its doors to all of you. Except for children under 16 years old, everyone is invited to participate in the game. Even the elderly who are on the brink of death can feel young again in the game world. No matter how ordinary you are in the real world, you can rise in the game world, as long as you gain enough experience points. The game world is divided into 2 modes, the story mode, where you will be the only player in the world, and the online mode, where you will play with 999 other players in the same black room you are in. The online mode is temporarily disabled because it's still under maintenance, so for now, you can only play the story mode. The story, as you all know, is the story of One Piece manga. Rob looked ahead deeply, imagining the astonished expressions on the faces of the people who had been listening to his speech at that moment. That's right, the game world you will enter is an exact replica of this world, the Seas planet, so it will be like getting a second life for you. Did you hear? Pinch me. I feel like I'm dreaming. Man. Why can't people under 16 participate? I'm 15. This isn't fair. Hey kid, wait until you're old enough. Ha ha ha. Oh my god. Is this Rob Sama's greatest achievement? Exciting. Extremely interesting. I want to try the story mode. In the game, I'll definitely join the Straw Hat Pirates. No. In the game, I'll make Luffy my follower. Ha ha ha. Just dream. That's impossible. Even before they tried the game, people were already making a huge commotion that would sweep the entire pirate world. Maragoa. After hearing everything Rob had said so far, the 5 elders were extremely worried. Everything that was about to happen was still vague, but the danger of the situation was clear. The problem was that they had no ability to stop him. Imu-sama. Should we stop him? Saint Jupiter asked as he bowed toward the empty throne. No. I am curious about this game world, and it's already too late to stop him now. Ima stood up from her throne and began descending the stairs, her long black cloak trailing behind her. It's time to visit the art store again, she said with a smile as the 5 elders stood up to accompany her. Let's try this game. Chapter 854, The Player Emu. The current game system was designed after long contemplation by Rob. After all, allowing millions of people to enter the game world at once would completely shatter the tranquility of the world. The story mode was an entirely different concept, allowing every player to experience the game from their own perspective. The world they played in would be just an external layer of the real world. Rob made the story mode possible thanks to his absolute control over the game world. Essentially, all players were playing the same game. However, since their circumstances, thoughts, and achievements were different, each could experience a unique story within the overarching narrative of the game world. Every time a new player logged into the game in story mode, a completely different timeline was created where the player became the only variable. This, in short, was story mode. Players could progress freely and comfortably in the game world as they wished. Each time they died, they would return stronger and stronger from where they left off. Considering that the One Piece story itself had not yet concluded, this mode would undoubtedly become the favorite of the vast majority of players in the future. As for the online mode, it was currently quite controversial. After all, 1,000 players would be gathered in a single world, created instantly when 1,000 players logged into the online mode. Since players were not yet familiar with the game world, there was no real benefit to activating this mode at the moment. Rob decided to open it at a regional level during special occasions. The closed beta version of this online mode had already been tested at this level. Additionally, there would be another level of online mode, the global level. Here, all players worldwide would play together in the real-world game. This would be an eagerly awaited, exceptional event for players, featuring huge prizes and leaderboards. Only true champions could shine in such global events. After sharing so much critical information about the One Piece game world, Rob officially announced the start of game registration. Since it was free, people flocked in droves to secure one of the first 1,000 slots available in every art store. Before chaos could erupt, the store's goddesses, who had returned to work, organized everything under the unbeatable power of the art store. Soon, the black rooms in every store were filled. After registering their names and ages, each player received a player capsule, fixed firmly in place. This smart capsule was part of the art store and could sustain the player's life inside while automatically ejecting them from the game after the 1-hour time limit. If a player died before the 1-hour limit, the capsule allowed them to re-enter the game and try again if they wished to continue playing. So many people. The art store only gets this crowded on One Piece manga days, Olivia said happily as she observed the excited crowds at the O'Hara art store. The massive turnout was proof of her husband's popularity and the trust people had in him. I bet this scene is already happening in most other stores. His speech was amazing, Sora said with a smile, holding Sanji and Reiju, who had grown bigger and sweeter. Sanji's blonde hair and Reiju's pink hair were even more prominent at this stage, as they were now 6 months old. That's true. When will we try the game ourselves? I'm starting to regret not participating in the closed beta back then, Toki said, holding Hyori, who had green hair and was the same age as Sanji and Reiju. We can all try story mode anytime after the art store closes, the beautiful mermaid Otoheim said with a smile. Bella and Glora nodded enthusiastically. Since they had already experienced the game during the closed beta, they were even more eager to dive back in. For now, let's do our duties properly and organize this massive crowd so more people can enjoy the game to their heart's content. With that, Olivia rolled up her sleeves and headed toward the Black Room's entrance, followed by the other store goddesses to manage the second wave of players. Wave after wave, people transformed from ordinary individuals into players. Every person who experienced story mode and saw the One Piece world from inside the game emerged later, stunned, unable to believe their senses. Nearly all ordinary people chose acceptable pain before immersing themselves in the game. As a result, when they died, they didn't feel the soul-piercing agony. However, those who selected moderately painful truly felt intense pain upon dying, as if they had been genuinely hurt rather than playing a game. Even legendary figures like Roger, Whitebeard, and Kaido died at the beginning. How could ordinary people not die, especially the unlucky ones who started the game as humans in Kokoyashi village? Nevertheless, hundreds of players survived a full hour in the capsule, equivalent to a full year in the game world. Most of them reached level 5 in just one session. So many geniuses. Rob was astonished to see hundreds of players in every art store achieving level 5 in one session. Some even reached levels 6 and 7. Though those who made it to level 6 were few and far between, and level 7 achievers could be counted on one hand, these included legends like Roger, Whitebeard, Mihawk, and Doflamingo. These. Rob muttered, examining the Black Room data in the Marigoa art store with keen interest. As expected, a merchant ship was already surrounded by Alvida's pirates, under the watchful gaze of a beautiful woman with red hair and long, pale legs. Imu's eyes gleamed as she watched Luffy fight Alvida's pirates and mock Alvida herself. My current level is 5. It's hard to gain experience points on this merchant ship. Can I withstand Luffy's punch without dying this time? Imu thought calmly as she gradually approached the battlefield between Luffy and Alvida. It's time. Seeing Luffy stretch his rubber arm, preparing to punch Alvida in the stomach, Imu sprinted toward the punch. Hey! Wait, what are you doing? Luffy tried to halt his punch to avoid hurting an innocent person, but Imu's timing was perfect, leaving him no chance to retract his extended arm. Luffy's punch struck Emu's slender waist, causing her smile to tighten in pain. But the pain didn't bother her as much as watching her health bar drop at an alarming rate. No. Stop draining. Emu was launched on an all-expenses-paid trip courtesy of Luffy, following Alvida's original trajectory and flying off into the distance. Seeing this, Luffy, Kobe, and even Alvida gaped in shock. Is she crazy? Luffy exclaimed as he retracted his rubber fist. Boom! Emu's body crashed into the water like a cannonball. Quickly regaining her composure, she swam toward a nearby shore. Luckily, my health didn't fully deplete like last time. Now it's time to find that devil fruit. It'll help me advance through these early levels faster. With a victorious smile, Emu exited the sea and climbed onto the shore. Since Alvida had found the slip fruit here before, why couldn't she repeat that and steal the opportunity for herself? Emu searched the area for hours. Eventually, she discovered a devil fruit. This is it. I think I'm the first player to obtain a devil fruit in the game world. Fufu, with this timely cheat, I'll level up quickly. Without hesitation, Emu ate the devil fruit. After all, this was just a game, why overthink it? Her character was currently too weak. Only a devil fruit could give her a massive power boost, allowing her to advance quickly and gain plenty of experience points. After consuming the devil fruit, she lost her ability to swim but gained extraordinary powers. From now on, ordinary attacks couldn't harm her. Even Kuro and Arlong, some of the strongest bosses in this part of the sea, couldn't touch her. What now? How do I get around? Emu's gaze fell on the remnants of Alvida's pirates dragging a fat body toward the shore. Alvida's pirates. As expected, Luffy defeated them and sent them here. A wicked glint appeared in Emu's eyes. Since Luffy had given her this big gift, why not thank him by taking it for herself? Chapter 855. The Return of One Piece Manga. After 6 months, the pirate world was teeming with enthusiastic players. It was no longer the same world it had been half a year ago. The world had entered an entirely new era where two identical worlds seamlessly merged together. Ordinary people worked hard in real life so they could entertain themselves and enjoy the maximum amount of time possible in that 1 hour they got in the game world. Of course, since 1 hour in the game world was equivalent to a whole year, these players felt their lifespans had significantly increased. Many players began to prefer life in the game world over its counterpart in reality. However, most players were still essentially stuck in the East Blue and hadn't yet entered the Grand Line in their own stories. Of course, some exceptional players managed to leave East Blue for other seas, expanding their maps further and further. Most of them surpassed level 20 and became local emperors in their respective regions. They liked this life so much that they didn't want to give it up easily to enter the Grand Line, which was the true stage for top-tier players. The most skilled players had already reached the Grand Line, and even the weakest among them was at level 30. Level 30 corresponded to a pirate with a bounty of over 20 million berries on their head from the Marines. After 6 months of exploring the game world, the players have grown steadily to reach this stage. Rob was satisfied with the players' achievements after all this time. The game's development was progressing steadily, thanks to the constant grinding of players who were making the game world more perfect. Every timeline created by a single player acted like a small tributary to the main river, which was the true game world. No matter how far this tributary strayed, it eventually returned to the main river to strengthen it. This was how Rob fortified the world he had created. Even though it was far from the level of the real world, one day, it would reach that same level. Since skilled players like Mihawk, Roger, Whitebeard, Shanks, Emu, Rayleigh, the Five Elders, and others are nearing the limits of the first half of the Grand Line with their rapid progress, it's time to continue drawing the One Piece manga then. The game world was vague in the second half of the Grand Line. If the manga didn't continue, the game world would never be complete, and something dangerous might happen. Anyway, the 1-year hiatus is finally over. Rob was currently in his office, smiling as he looked at the completed volume. The title of the volume was 3D2Y, Overcome Ace's Death. Luffy's Vow to His Friends. Originally, it had been a movie, but Rob had transformed it into a manga volume and integrated it into the events of the manga, just as he had done before with the Golden Lion movie. Brindy World will be thrilled about his debut. Rob smiled as he flipped through the pages of the new volume, reviewing it from start to finish. The beginning, of course, was the nightmare in which Luffy relived the harsh reality he had experienced at Marineford when Ace died in his arms. Luffy woke up from the nightmare, sweating, to find Rayleigh handing him a glass of water. He was still on Rusukana Island, training tirelessly under Rayleigh's guidance. Rob closed the pages of the new volume with a satisfied expression. Finally, he could return to his usual work. There was nothing better or more wonderful for him than drawing the One Piece manga. No, only playing the game with my little Robin and my other lovely kids could surpass drawing One Piece. Robin was now 6 years old. The current date was 1506 of the sea calendar, 18 years before Luffy set out to sea, and 1 year before Luffy's birth. It was the 6th year of the manga era. The main plot had already been destroyed, and there would no longer be a future similar to the one in the manga. Most of the main characters had already been born, like Zoro and Sanji. There wasn't much time left for Nami, Usopp, and Luffy to be born. But would the crew still gather in the future? No one believed that at this point, but many hoped to see it happen. Rob tapped his desk as he thought about how the manga and game world would complement each other perfectly. With the manga continuing, I look forward to seeing how the past, present, and future will intertwine closely together. At this stage, the world government no longer poses any threat. Whether I remove them or let them stay depends entirely on my mood. Since the celestial dragons weren't causing any trouble for now, it was fine to leave them be. After all, he still needed more art coins to create the next game world. Only through the reader's intense emotions could he collect art coins. Since the celestial dragons were avid followers of his works, he earned a lot of art coins from them, making their existence more beneficial than their absence for now. At that moment, Rob stood from his seat and headed outside. Many people were staring at the beacon of the art store, the signboard, with excited expressions. Some even had tears in their eyes from nostalgia. On the signboard, there was the massive One Piece logo alongside a poster for the new volume with its title displayed. The poster featured Ace, Luffy, Hancock, Rayleigh, and a man whose back was turned. Hunter's Island. The moment Brindy World saw the promotional poster for the new arc of One Piece manga, his expression turned strange. Is that me? Has my time to appear in the manga finally come? How could he not recognize himself? Even if his back was turned. Oh. Don't tell me you're going to be Luffy's next enemy. That's interesting. The Red Count smiled as he looked at the new poster with interest. Hey, is that little runt on your shoulder in the poster your brother? Bullet said with a grin. Veins bulged in Whirl's eyes. After all, his older brother Biojack had already died due to a mysterious accident, the details of which he had yet to uncover. That was the greatest regret in Whirl's heart to this day. Bullet's words at that moment were like pouring salt on an open wound. Whirl didn't want to remember that. Clearly, Bullet intended to provoke Whirl into challenging him so that he could topple him from his high rank on the legendary hunters list, which had seen constant changes since the emergence of the game world. One of the most notable changes was the addition of a new legendary hunter, Doflamingo, the youngest legendary hunter. He had ousted Shaki from the list and replaced her. It seems this new arc really is my moment to shine. World regained his composure and didn't respond to Bullet's blatant provocation. Seeing his brother's back, World was now certain that this arc was about him. So, it turns out you're the first whetstone Luffy will use after learning about hockey. Ha 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 ha. Bullet didn't stop trying to provoke him. Damn you. Do you want to fight? You've got it. I'll crush your face into the ground. Brindy World couldn't hold back any longer and charged like a raging bull at Bullet, who wore a wide grin on his face. Watching this familiar scene, Redfield elegantly stepped away from the battlefield, dusted off his red suit, and watched the fight from afar, enjoying a glass of red wine in his hand. Chapter 856, Fishman Island Saga, 3D2Y, Overcome Ace's Death. Luffy's Vow to His Friends, Part 1. Maragoa. The bright sunlight illuminated the elevated land, announcing the start of a new day and a new month. After years of brainwashing, the celestial dragons no longer dressed as they once did. The spacesuit-like attire had become a thing of the past. Now, they dress like pirates. You could see many Luffys here and there, people dressed as Luffy, as well as Zoro, Sanji, Frankie, and others. At this time, only a few still held on to the true lifestyle of the celestial dragons. After all, ever since the emergence of the One Piece manga and art store, their lives and perspectives on life have completely transformed. The idea of them being gods was slowly fading from their minds. Even their authority was gradually being limited. But did all this matter? Of course not. It didn't even compare to the joy of the big news: One Piece manga was back. Most celestial dragons were ecstatic about the news. After all, they had been waiting for so long. A whole year had passed since the last update of the One Piece manga. Although the game world, which had opened its doors 6 months ago, was incredible and mysterious, keeping the excitement alive and growing each day, the celestial dragons who played the game faced all kinds of torment within it. The most skilled among them barely reached level 10. They were worse than regular players in the game. Lacking basic skills and accustomed to lives of luxury, they couldn't progress like ordinary players, let alone professionals. Now, everyone in the game ranked the celestial dragons even lower than beginners. Despite playing for a long time, they had learned very little. After all, an average player only needed a month to reach level 10, choose a profession, and leave the beginner village. Most celestial dragons were still stuck in the beginner village after 6 months. Their low IQ was the main reason for this, and not even the One Piece manga had managed to heal it yet. Since they kept losing repeatedly in the game without any hope of progress, overcoming obstacles, or gaining more experience points, they grew disheartened and desperately awaited the manga's return. This was the situation, even with many professional players sharing their expertise on the global forum. Many players summarized numerous methods for completing tasks in the beginner villages and leveling up quickly. A familiar green light shone from the beacon of the art store, announcing the release of the new volume. As if they had been waiting for this moment for a long time, a large group of celestial dragons rushed to the art store, bringing millions of berries to buy the new volume. Despite the passing of time, Rob still priced the art store's releases highly in this art store in Maragoa, slowly depleting their accumulated wealth. Fishman Island Saga? Finally, a new saga, exclaimed a celestial dragon. I wonder how Luffy and the others will look after 2 years. I'm so excited to see them, adds another one. Na-mi-san. Robin Chuan. My beauties, I'm sure you'll be even more beautiful after 2 years, exclaimed another. Hancock. I want to see Hancock again. I love her. The accumulated volumes on the shelves disappeared as quickly as they appeared, with each celestial dragon buying their own copy and running away, afraid it might be stolen from them. 3D2Y. As expected, this volume begins with memories of the Summit War. The celestial dragon Saint Roseward was the first to open his volume and begin reading eagerly. The first chapter was Luffy's nightmare. Chapter's events. Listen, Luffy. Young Ace gazed at the sea. Behind him, young Luffy cried over the news of Sabo's death. We have to live without regretting anything we do. One day, we'll head to the sea, and live however we want. Freer than anyone else. The scene suddenly shifted to the height of the Summit War at Marineford. Pirates and Marines clashed and slaughtered each other relentlessly. Ace, we're coming to save you. Luffy fought and ran with unwavering determination to reach Ace. After overcoming countless obstacles and hardships, Luffy finally made it to Ace's side. Ace. Luffy was elated when he succeeded in freeing Ace. But in the next moment, Akainu's magma fist pierced Ace's back, burning most of his internal organs and sealing his fate. With a heart-wrenching scream, Luffy woke up from his nightmare, drenched in sweat. Did you have a nightmare? You're sweating a lot. Rayleigh handed Luffy a glass of water. Drink this. After losing his brother, Portgas D. Ace, during the Summit War at Marineford, Monkey D. Luffy suffered deep psychological and physical wounds. Don't just think about those you've lost. The departed won't come back. What do you still have left? These were the words Jinbei said at the time, which truly awakened Luffy. I have a suggestion for you. Of course, it's entirely up to you whether to accept it. By accepting Rayleigh's suggestion, he went to Ruskana. This is observation haki. Next is armament haki. And this, the ability to instill fear in your opponent's heart, conqueror's haki. To obtain the power known as haki, the only effective countermeasure against devil fruit users, Luffy is undergoing 2 years of training. The pirate Monkey D. Luffy will be taking a break for a while. On the turbulent seas of the New World, the ship Moby Dick, followed by 3 smaller Moby Dick ships, sailed through the distance like a majestic fleet. Strangely, the ships were stationary in a calm area, unlike the stormy regions nearby. But even more bizarrely, the ships appeared abandoned, like ghost ships. The main ship, where the nearest art store was located, was also empty. But this wasn't unusual. At that moment, all the pirates were gathered inside the art store. Inside the spacious art store, Whitebeard's pirates, their allied crews, and unofficial allies, all those Whitebeard had personally invited to use the store's services, were present. Just moments ago, everyone had been brimming with excitement over the new volume. But the moment they saw a comprehensive recap of the Summit War, Ace's death from Luffy's perspective, and Whitebeard's tears, their expressions froze, and they felt a wave of sorrow. They remembered all the tragic and unjust scenes that had befallen Whitebeard's pirates in the manga. So, the current arc's timeline is still during the training period. I thought with the manga's return, the 2-year gap would pass, and the crew would reunite at Sabaody Archipelago. Newgate spoke calmly, seeing everyone's silence. The current Newgate was much calmer than he had been a year ago. He was no longer affected by external events. The manga's events didn't play on his emotions as the Summit War had. This was because he believed there wouldn't be another arc like the Summit War that could impact him as deeply as Marineford's events had. It seems Luffy hasn't fully recovered from the trauma, Marco remarked. He's still having nightmares, Vista added. That's only natural. Look at the deep scar on his stomach. It still looks fresh. That scar on his body was caused by Akainu. And he's also the cause of the even deeper scar in his heart, Jozu said, his expression somber. Do you think Luffy will one day take revenge on Akainu? Oars Jr. asked curiously. Everyone turned to look at Oars, who had spoken. They all shared the same curiosity. If they meet in the same place, a battle will certainly happen. Although Luffy isn't naturally vengeful, he's never forgotten who killed his brother, Whitebeard replied with absolute certainty. Chapter 857, Fishman Island Saga. 3D2Y, Overcome Ace's Death. Luffy's Vow to His Friends. Part 2. South Blue, on Batarilla Island. In the eyes of 2 adorable boys, the brightness of the sun on this radiant spring day obscured the face of the charming woman, but it could not hide her even brighter smile as she gazed at her 2 children. The infants lovingly touched her face, for she was their mother. Ace and Sabo are as energetic as ever, Roger sighed with relief upon arriving home and seeing this beautiful scene. You're back, darling, Rouge's smile widened as she saw her husband return. Lately, she had been incredibly happy, enjoying the family she had always dreamed of having. A dream that had been cruelly shattered for her counterpart in the manga, where all her family members were dead, and their existence was erased. Rouge's attention was drawn to the volume Roger held in his hand. So, the One Piece manga has returned. Rouge's expression became complex at that moment. Ever since she became acquainted with this manga, her life had undergone an almost radical change. This manga was a revelation from the future that had transformed everything. When she first read this book, her husband, Roger, was sitting on the execution platform. Now, the same date on which Roger was supposed to have been executed had passed 2 years ago, yet Roger was still here, unaffected by his fate in the manga. The complexity on Rouge's face faded, replaced by another bright smile. Give me my copy. I'll read it with the kids. I've missed the One Piece manga. Roger stepped forward, embracing Rouge and their 2 children. He kissed her forehead gently and said, "Everything is changed, my love. Now we are a real family." Saying this, he handed her a manga volume titled Overcome Ace's Death. Life goes on. Time surpasses all. Death is merely a law of nature. As expected, Luffy had already moved past Ace's death. Rouge, too, had to overcome it, continue living, and devote herself to raising the young Ace and Sabo. With these thoughts, Rouge opened the new volume. Chapters Events. "Are you calm now?" Rayleigh asked after noticing Luffy's mood relaxing. "Yes." "I wonder what they're doing," Luffy said. "Your friends?" Rayleigh inquired. "Yeah," Luffy confirmed. At that moment, he recalled what Jinbei had told him back then. "Think carefully about what you still have." Luffy had broken down in tears, his voice trembling as he said, "I still have my friends." Zoro. Luffy remembered the day he met Zoro and learned of his ambition to become the greatest swordsman in the world. Even when Zoro was defeated by Mihawk, he didn't break but instead promised Luffy with tears that he would never lose again. Usopp. That boy, despite his cowardice and weakness, possessed a courage that even Luffy admired. Nami. When Luffy learned about Nami's past, he felt immense anger for the first time on his pirate journey. The day she hurt herself and surrendered in tears, asking him to save her, remained etched in his memory. Sanji. Recruiting this cook was the most challenging. Yet, the more Sanji refused, the more determined Luffy became to bring him aboard, even without knowing his background or history. Chopper. Luffy recalled how fascinating the little reindeer was when they first met. When Chopper said he had no friends, Luffy exclaimed, "I'm your friend." Even when Chopper refused to join, Luffy refused to accept his rejection. Robin. Robin was the one who proposed joining the crew. Luffy hadn't sought her out, but events unfolded in such a way that she officially joined after being rescued from the world government. When Luffy heard her desire to live, he fought for her. Frankie. With Frankie, Luffy used the hard way to recruit him, by stealing his underwear. But it was worth it. After all, their new ship, Sunigo, needed its maker on board. Brook. Given that he was a moving skeleton and an excellent musician, Luffy was more than eager to bring Brook into the crew. Brook had no objections after recovering his shadow from Moria and escaping the Devil's Sea. "I want to become stronger, to protect them. I want to be the man who can safeguard their dreams." After naming them all, Luffy felt a deep sense of relief for what he still had. His resolve to grow stronger for their sake intensified. "I think your friends feel the same and will be preparing during these 2 years," Rayleigh said. Luffy nodded, confident they would do their best. "The sun will rise soon. Get some rest." "Tomorrow's training will be tough," Rayleigh said, looking at the sky. "Yeah, I'll head back to sleep," Luffy nodded. This scene summarized Luffy's entire journey in finding his crewmates. What an incredible journey so far. "Luffy has found true friends," Roger said with a smile. He was deeply moved by this scene. The presence of Rayleigh in the scene left an even stronger impression. After all, Rayleigh was to him what Zoro was to Luffy, his first friend. He still has so many people who love him. Rouge nodded sincerely. She, too, was moved by the scene, especially when she saw the young Ace gently touching Luffy's face in the manga. It seems like the training has been going on for a while now. Luffy is getting used to it. In the following scenes, Roger and Rouge watched as Luffy fought against the blue gorilla and other forest beasts. "Even though they're overwhelming him, he's definitely improving," Rouge remarked, seeing how Luffy dodged the beast's attacks. "Oh. He's using armament haki already? How long has it been since he started learning it? What talent!" Roger was astonished when he saw Luffy's rubber hand turn black as he struck down the fierce bird attacking him. "It seems he just figured it out. He still needs more refinement," Roger observed as Luffy's attack failed to harm a hardened rabbit. "He has a long way to go, but his ability to grasp armament haki this quickly is impressive." "Rayleigh must be inwardly amazed," Roger added. West Blue, O'Hara. The atmosphere here in O'Hara was ablaze, just like everywhere else in the world. The return of the One Piece manga meant a great deal to people globally, but it meant even more to the people of O'Hara. After all, One Piece manga had first emerged from here. As Luffy revisited the memories of his journey from its inception, many readers felt nostalgic, with some of the more emotional ones even shedding tears, especially when they remembered Nami's heartbreaking scene, asking Luffy to save her. Among the readers who cried was the famed store goddess, Belmere. It seems Luffy has regained his confidence and peacefully moved past Ace's death, Gloriosa remarked. All thanks to Jimbei. No, credit goes first and foremost to his friends. Without them, he would have had nothing and wouldn't have escaped the dark emotional spiral, Olivia affirmed, understanding Luffy's situation more deeply. His pursuit of strength has become nobler than ever before, to protect his friends' dreams. What a strong young man, the beautiful mermaid Otoheim mused, marveling at the indescribable moment. Chapter 858, Generalizing the Observation Haki Training Method. Chapter's Events. Now your chances of using armament haki at will are at 50%. Relying on your observation haki, you shouldn't just sense the presence of your enemies but also their level of strength. Saying this, Rayleigh planned to start teaching Luffy about observation haki seriously now that he had mastered armament haki. Your eyes are sharp, which is why you rely on them so much, he added. Hearing this, Luffy was surprised, but he was even more shocked when Rayleigh blindfolded him, preventing him from using his eyes. That's better. I can't see, Luffy expressed his concern. Leave it like this for a while. Luffy stumbled over a rock and fell. I can't see anything. As I said, you must strain all your senses. You must feel their presence. No matter how sharp your vision is, you can't see things moving at the speed of light. Hearing this, Luffy remembered how Rayleigh managed to confront Kizaru and outmatch him back in the Sabaody archipelago. But once you gain observation haki, you can feel where they are. Alright, I'll do it. Luffy now understood the importance of observation haki. He's coming, Luffy seemed determined. Hawk. But then he started running, screaming, as the wild beasts chased him relentlessly. It seemed that mastering observation haki wasn't easy. Inside the art store aboard the R.O. Jackson ship docked behind Batarilla Island. It seems Rob is using me as a haki teacher for everyone in the world. The place was quiet as Rayleigh spoke first at this moment. There's no doubt that this is the proper and suitable method to learn observation haki, blindfolding the eyes and ignoring their use while engaging the other senses and forcing them to work under life-threatening conditions. Gabon nodded in agreement, fully supporting Rayleigh's idea. Did Rob plan this, or was it simply destined for you to be Luffy's teacher in the future, Rayleigh-san? Shanks asked curiously. I don't think Rob planned anything. He's simply drawing what will happen in the future as it is, Rayleigh said confidently as he drank a cup of sake in his hand. What does it matter? Your popularity will skyrocket after this, Rayleigh-san. Buggy commented enthusiastically. I don't want popularity or fame. I don't want to see this world sink into chaos. People will die trying to imitate my training with Luffy. Rayleigh gazed deeply at the scene of the gorilla, lion, and crocodile chasing the blindfolded Luffy. The scene seemed humorous and comedic. But in Rayleigh's eyes, it wasn't funny at all. He wouldn't let these beasts harm the blindfolded Luffy. He was merely using them to push Luffy's senses to their utmost limits. Given Luffy's terrifying talent, it wouldn't take long for him to master observation haki. This wasn't the case for others. It was certain that after this chapter, millions of ordinary people would try the same method to awaken observation haki, which was considered a supernatural ability. And this would undoubtedly result in the death of many people. Wouldn't he indirectly be the cause of their deaths? These thoughts deeply worried Rayleigh. Don't worry, Rayleigh. Didn't Rob tell us he created the game world so people wouldn't kill themselves trying to master haki? Roger appeared at that moment. All right, how did I forget about the game world? Yes, haki's abilities can be mastered in the game world, this has already been tested. Through the muscle memory players bring back to the real world, they can certainly awaken hockey in reality as well. Rayleigh finally understood Rob's intention in creating the game world. Since Rob has already generalized the observation hockey training method, the world government won't stay silent anymore. This definitely crosses their red lines. Wahahaha. So what can they do even if this crosses their red lines? At Mangaka, the atmosphere was heavy, and the five elders were grim. It seems that in the near future, the entire world will become a new world, and it won't just be limited to the second half of the Grand Line. At this moment, Saint Saturn spoke with a dark expression, and it was almost possible to see demonic horns forming on his head. His anger was so intense he was about to transform into his demonic form. If the strength of people worldwide rises, ruling the world will become much harder than it is now. The hunters will no longer be our only concern. Saint Jupiter spoke calmly, in contrast to Saint Saturn. Using the game world to hone hockey abilities. Even the most useless slave will become a massive force at sea. What a terrifying future. Saint Nashiro shuddered at the mere thought of the future now. Why did we allow things to escalate to this point? Were we hypnotized? Saint Mars felt chills running through his body as he pondered their situation before One Piece manga and now. Before the appearance of the One Piece manga, everything was fine, just as it was in the One Piece manga itself. But now, they had already lost half the world to Rob, who controlled everything through his art stores spread across that half. The other half, still under their control, had no art stores, Mangaka being an exception. Now, things had gotten worse because the One Piece manga was already circulating in their half of the world through unofficial art stores, and even the black market was still present in their territory. This meant Rob essentially controlled the entire world. By generalizing the observation hockey training method, the situation would become chaotic as pirates would rise again after nearing extinction. This time, the pirates would be much stronger than before. Armed with their superior combat skills from their memories in the game world and observation hockey, which they would undoubtedly awaken under the constant threat of death in the game world, the new pirates would certainly be more terrifying. What should we do now, Ima-sama? Reaching this embarrassing stage, only their lord could help them. Recruiting more people into the Marines, government, and Holy Knights will solve the issue. Although I don't see the need, if necessary, you may use my power to create the Death Corps. No one will be able to shake the foundations of my rule. Imo spoke calmly before continuing to read the manga. Death Corps, hearing this, the five elders felt chills. At the Revolutionary Army base in the Sorbet Kingdom. Rayleigh seems to be an excellent teacher. As expected from the Dark King. Garp smiled as he watched Rayleigh train Luffy. He wasn't concerned about the generalization of Rayleigh's training method through the manga. So what? Hockey training wasn't easy. If someone wasn't ready to face death, they wouldn't even awaken armament hockey, let alone observation hockey or conqueror's hockey. In his opinion, only a tiny fraction of the people in this world had enough willpower to be honed into a multi-purpose weapon. This was the essence of hockey's strength. Hockey is a versatile weapon born from an individual's will that stems from their spirit. Without a strong spirit, there can be no strong will, and thus, no powerful hockey. Even if many people manage to master hockey by honing their wills in the game world, most will never progress throughout their lives. Like those ordinary soldiers at Marineford War, most of them were proficient in basic hockey, but only at a beginner level. They didn't have strong enough spirits to distinguish themselves from the masses. Ordinary people, no matter how many there are still part of the masses. Only those with strong spirits and unyielding wills can destabilize the sea. Fortunately, throughout history, compared to the enormous population, the number of these strong individuals remains laughably small. But, Father, their numbers were small because not everyone in the world knew how to become stronger in the first place. Only a tiny fraction of people knew that. Dragon replied calmly. Not knowing how to become stronger? That's nonsense. Everyone knows how to become stronger. It's common sense. Only through hardships can people become stronger. In today's world, there are no longer hardships. Rob protects this world. people feel safe. Even if he created that harsh game world, people still feel safe deep down. Their spirits will weaken over time, and they won't progress in mastering Haki. Nothing will change. Garp had a clearer grasp of the core issue than even the world government. Chapter 859, Brindy World. Seeing his father's confidence in his beliefs, even Dragon felt there was some logic in his words. After all, Haki is awakened through risk, the feeling of threat, or experiencing life and death situations, or to save the life of someone dear to you. Just like Luffy, who unleashed his conqueror's Haki beyond his capabilities when Ace was about to be executed. Undoubtedly, the current era, known as the era of manga, was peaceful. Fewer and fewer crimes and pirate attacks on ordinary, peaceful people were being recorded. With the instantaneous spread of news through the global forum, pirates and thugs no longer dared to commit crimes openly, at least. This great sense of safety, peace, and the system brought by the era of the art store to the lives of the world's inhabitants was not bad. This was what the Revolutionary Army was striving for, anyway. Now, the Revolutionary Army was working to preserve it while completely eliminating the world government and the celestial dragons, who were already cornered. Safety has prevented people from becoming strong. So be it. They don't need strength anyway, they need a peaceful life, Dragon said as he returned to look at the manga, which had shifted to another chapter. In this chapter, there was a clash at sea between pirates and the navy. This was the world he was familiar with, the world that had already changed thanks to Rob. World's pirates. I caught that scoundrel with my own hands 10 years ago. Who would have thought he'd join Rob and become a legendary hunter, Garp said with a strange look on his face. He knew well what kind of scum Brindy World had been. For him to become a legendary hunter under the banner of a resolute man like Rob was somewhat unbelievable, unexpected, to say the least. I heard that one day, Rob stormed Impel Down, freed both World and the Red Count, and gave them a choice, join him or die. They had no choice but to join reluctantly. After that, they didn't dare disobey, given Rob's immense power, Ivankov said, expressing his amazement. That's true. Rob is merely using them, Kuma said with a calm expression. 10 legendary hunters, each with the strength of at least an admiral. If I were him, I'd do the same. Only in Impel Down could he find such elite individuals, Crocodile said, offering his opinion as well. His infamous nature as a pirate will be fully exposed in this arc. I'm sure Luffy will kick his butt in the end, just like he did with Shiki. Boa ha ha. Garp laughed, then immersed himself in reading the manga's events again. Chapter's events. Biojack, how many minutes have passed since we began the attack? 8 minutes have passed. Cough. Too slow. Sinking 3 warships and a passenger ship shouldn't take this long. But we faced a lot of trouble recruiting these crew members in your absence. Numbers aren't the deciding factor. Knighton, Garam, Sebastian, show them how to attack. You have 1 minute. Without looking back, the massive man gave his orders. Yes, sir. Guy Ra. I've been itching for a fight. Let's get to it. The fishman named Sebastian leaped into the sea, while both Knighton and Old Woman and Garam, with a peculiar laugh, remained on board. Then, Sebastian swam towards the warships. They destroyed 1 ship within a minute. Bararararo. I was confident they'd succeed. I'll handle the rest in 50 seconds. The massive man used Jeppo to fly and quickly reached the second Navy ship. Your Brindy World. A Navy soldier exclaimed in shock upon recognizing the enemy. As expected of World. Ki-hee-hee. His strength hasn't waned at all. That's true. Unlike other ordinary pirates, the 3 crew members of World's pirates weren't surprised when World easily destroyed the Navy ships and the Celestial Dragon's ship. Marine Ford. Is it easy to destroy a fleet escorting a Celestial Dragon? Inside the fleet admiral's office, Sengoku was visibly distressed as he watched the scene. Brindy World. What a madman! Even Zephyr was shocked, his mind flashing back to a decade ago when this monster roamed the seas as a pirate. Now, as a hunter, he was no longer wild but obedient, almost losing his life to the three admirals if not for the intervention of the king of hunters himself. He must have escaped prison due to the chaos caused by Straw Hat and Blackbeard in Impel Down, Suru remarked, unsurprised by Brindy World's capabilities. Even if a vice admiral had been on the Celestial Dragon's mission, they wouldn't have been able to save them. Brindy World. The power of the Moa Moa no Mi is truly astonishing. With it, he can destroy the world. It's in the same league as the Gura Gura no Mi, Sengoku added. Arara. A fitting name, then? Akiji remarked without expression. He's just a rat hiding under a big tree. If not for the Sky Sword, I would have killed him back then. Akainu growled, his right arm missing a wound from Roger 7 months ago when he was cornered by Whitebeard's pirates and Roger's pirates. If not for the five elders' intervention, he would have died under their wrath. He can amplify bullets to cannonball size and increase their speed tenfold. He can even make ordinary scales lethal by accelerating them. Truly terrifying. Barcelino said, although his tone betrayed no fear. That's the power of the Moa Moa no Mi. If developed properly, it might be the most terrifying devil fruit in the world, Zephyr said, adding his thoughts. At that time, Brindy World caused us a lot of trouble before we finally subdued him. That's true. Luckily, Garp was on our side. He managed to crush him in the end. Back at Ring Hell Island, the headquarters of the Hunters Guild, the hunters there were reading the manga with curiosity. The backgrounds of many of their legendary hunters had always been mysterious. Now, many truths about Brindy World, who was among the elite even within the current legendary hunters, were being revealed. Garum. Knighton. Sebastian. Biojack. At that moment, World felt nostalgia as he saw the introductory scene of World's Pirates. The overwhelming sense of nostalgia was palpable. All of them were gone. Undoubtedly, for some unknown reason, the remnants of his pirate crew had been wiped out, most likely by the world government. So, in the manga timeline, after escaping Impel Down, you managed to reconnect with your crew, Redfield remarked with a smile as he sipped his red wine. Destroying a navy fleet protecting a government ship for a celestial dragon. Your counterpart is quite bold. Even Bullet praised him at that moment. Humph. And what if it's a celestial dragon? Clearly, my counterpart, who was imprisoned in Impel Down for 30 years, has nothing left to fear. Killing a celestial dragon is just the beginning. When I was in prison, I had many vengeful thoughts. Perhaps my counterpart, who spent even more time imprisoned, thought of worse. Bararararo. I'll enjoy every moment of these chapters. Let me see how you vent your anger and frustration. Will you destroy this world? I can't wait to find out. With Luffy around, don't think your counterpart will achieve anything, Bullet said with a mocking smile. It doesn't matter. I hope he heads straight to Maragoa instead of facing Luffy, who has the Dark King's support at this time. Maragoa? The five elders are truly powerful. Your counterpart is nothing in front of them, Redfield said, his gaze profound. The five elders? Those monsters are just a front. The real power lies with Imu, who stands behind them. Having clashed with the world government for a long time, the hunters were already aware of its secrets, including its hierarchical structure and the true power at its top. Or rather, the king of the empty throne. Chapter 860, Brindy World's desire to destroy Maragoa. Amazon Lily. The sun's rays shone over the island of women, illuminating every corner. The place appeared deserted, devoid of movement. This was because all the female warriors were gathered inside the art store, located in the center of the island. Inside the store, Shaki smoked calmly as she gazed at a manga page where Amazon Lily appeared in the new chapter. Dayton, what do you think about this? Do you think love weakens a woman or strengthens her? Shaki asked as she watched Hancock pondering the harsh weather in Luscana, where the approaching winter would be extremely cold and likely affect Luffy, who was training there. I haven't experienced love to know, but judging by how Hancock reacts to it, I think love strengthens her against others but weakens her when it comes to Luffy. Unfortunately for her, Luffy doesn't return her feelings, Dayton said with pity for Hancock's character in the manga. Your answer is convincing. Shaki thought about Rayleigh, who was far away in Batarilla at the moment. Fortunately for her, their love was mutual, unlike Hancock's unrequited feelings for a teenager who didn't even understand the meaning of romantic love between a man and a woman. Hearing these old women's conversation, young Hancock's face turned red as she tried to hide her embarrassment with her hand, which made her look incredibly cute. Every time her Luffy-loving counterpart appeared, little Hancock had to endure all this embarrassment. It was too much for someone her age. After all, she wasn't even 7 years old yet. Big sister is so determined. Little Marigold suddenly said from the side. Big sister's counterpart is amazing. She's so thorough when it comes to Luffy, added little Sandersonia excitedly from the other side. These children admired how Hancock interacted with Luffy, ever since she fell in love with him due to his stance against the celestial dragons at the time. Put. Ha ha. Hancock still treats my old counterpart so poorly. Gloriosa wiped away a tear of laughter after watching how the elder Nyanba tried to stop Hancock from overly spoiling Luffy or interrupting his training, only to be kicked on the head by an irritated Hancock. It's amusing to see how you've come to enjoy such recurring scenes of Hancock hurting your old counterpart. You've mellowed out. In the past, you didn't like how Hancock treated her, Shaki remarked, surprised to see Gloriosa laughing. They were currently gathered in the art store at Amazon Lily. As business had already begun, the store's goddesses had returned to their positions. Although Shaki wasn't one of the store's goddesses, she loved reading manga here. It had always been her home, after all. Deep down, she was grateful to Rob for granting her freedom and the ability to return to the place where she was born and raised, allowing her to relive memories of the past without the pain of old wounds. That's because I've severed my emotional ties to my counterpart. I become just a spectator. Now, I can judge and react to scenes as an observer. I don't feel any bitterness. I can understand Nyanba's position and also Hancock's. If I were in her place, I'd do the same for my beloved Rob. Gloriosa shared her thoughts, but as soon as she thought about Rob, memories of the wild night they shared made her press her trembling hand against her hips. She felt immensely happy in that moment. Hearing this, Shaki nodded with a smile before returning her focus to the chapter's events. I wonder why the world government is summoning the Shichibukai again. Could it be because of Brindy World? Shaki pondered. Chapter's events. Thank you, everyone. The ship we dreamed of 30 years ago, we've finally acquired it. And this massive cannon, Brindy World gazed at the colossal cannon that had just been used to destroy a small island. The barrel is already enormous, but with my Moa Moa power, I can make the cannonballs 100 times larger. With this, we can even obliterate Marigoa, the capital of the world government, in an instant. Everything is ready. Now it's showtime. Verarararo. The expression on Brindy World's face was completely insane as he laughed after delivering those words. World, I don't think we can execute the plan so easily. Cough. Cough. At that moment, his elder brother, Biojack, who was struggling to stand due to his old age, intervened. What? World was surprised. Because of what you did the day before, the world government now knows that the former great pirate, Brindy World, has returned. Biojack's explanation was reasonable. I wanted them to know. It's no big deal. But they're anticipating our attack, and they've summoned the 7 Shichibukai, Biojack informed his brother of the latest news. Is that true? World's 3 subordinates broke out in cold sweat. The Shichibukai? What's that? World asked in confusion. Right. You were imprisoned in Impel Down for 30 years, so you don't know them. The Shichibukai are a group of pirates pardoned by the government through an agreement. Biojack continued, in exchange, they can be summoned during emergencies. They're like the government's dogs. But they're not just dogs, their power is formidable. You said they were summoned this morning? Then let's make use of that. Which of the government's dogs lives near here? World asked with a sinister smile. Government dogs? Fufufu, that old man, barely a step away from death, has a sharp tongue. In O'Hara, Doflamingo laughed mockingly at how Biojack referred to the Shichibukai as government dogs. After all, Doflamingo's counterpart was a Shichibukai himself, meaning the insult included him too. Don't tell me the nearest Shichibukai to Brindy World is Hancock? That's bad, Rosinante said nervously. That cannon is enormous. That ship is astonishingly powerful. This world truly isn't devoid of geniuses. Sigh, I thought only people like Frankie or Iceberg could build such ships in this generation, but there's also Garam. Enel was genuinely shocked to see an island destroyed with a single cannon shot. Wasn't this power akin to that of legendary weapons? He can destroy islands thanks to his Moa Moa no Mi ability. Didn't you see how he can amplify the already huge cannonballs 100-fold? That devil fruit is as terrifying as the quake fruit, Vegapunk commented with a sigh. Ho ho! As expected of World. He didn't earn the position of legendary hunter for nothing. He's truly powerful, deserving the title of World Destroyer. Isho chuckled, expressing his admiration. He didn't concern himself with World's evil intentions, it was, after all, just his character in the manga, not his real persona as a legendary hunter. He's a fool. His elder brother seems much wiser. He underestimates the foundation of the world government. Even with a legendary weapon, he can't destroy Marigoa, Mihawk sneered. Yes, Mihawk-san is right. The government's foundation is terrifying. Even with that ship and his incredible devil fruit ability, World can't shake Marigoa's foundations, agreed Homing, a former celestial dragon. Fufufu, let's enjoy an entertaining show, World. Doflamingo laughed again and continued reading the manga. Central Prison. Jihahaha. That power is remarkable. Let's see how you'll destroy Marigoa. Inside his cell, Shiki laughed as he read the previous chapters. The return of the One Piece manga felt like a return to normalcy, especially after he lost the privilege of participating in the game world due to his imprisonment. The game world was thriving, but it was out of reach for the likes of Shiki, Moria, Hogback, and others. But the return of the One Piece manga reignited their spirits. Especially with such an exciting start. Brindy World was truly evil. He had successfully acquired his dream ship after his crew managed to construct it, believing in his eventual return. This ship, combined with the Moa Moa no Mi, is a perfect match. He can unleash power akin to a legendary weapon. Jihahaha. I hope Hancock is the nearest Shichibukai to him. I want to see how Luffy handles such a strong opponent. Shiki laughed maniacally as he continued reading. Kishishishi. Fun. So much fun. Welcome back, greatest manga. Moria was also thoroughly enjoying the manga at that moment. That wraps up this part of What If Becoming a Mangaka in One Piece World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.